We're back.
We're
After
back.
after almost 9 months, we're back. I know that we haven't been active for a while, but we just had to come back to celebrate President Malay's inauguration, the first libertarian president of a major country in a very long time. Some
Yeah.
would even argue the very first if you don't count Calvin Coolidge or Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, well the definitely the first ideological libertarian in modern history, I would say.
Yep, because Grover Cleveland was a classical liberal. Calvin Coolidge, honestly, it's debatable if whether or not he actually was a libertarian or just a very good small government conservative. Milei, on the other hand, he's a self-described anarcho-capitalist who dresses up as Captain ANCAP, uh, says that he wipes his ass with the state, said that he'd rather cut off one of his arms than raise or create a tax. And his slogan, Viva la libertad carajo, roughly translates into English as long live the fucking freedom.
Yeah.
But but to be honest, Argentina's political climate was just perfect for a libertarian revolution, considering the state of the economy with rampant inflation, government corruption, a disgruntled youth who were sick and tired of the Peronism that was ruining their country for decades. And
Oh
Sergio
yeah.
Massa
Yeah,
was
go
the
ahead.
face of all of that economic frustration. He was the face of that economic destruction of the Argentine peso.
Yeah, like the thing is that like the Argentina has been under a system of government for quite a long time since the end of their dictatorship in the 80s called Peronism, which is a pretty well, I wouldn't necessarily it's not communist, but it's it's a pretty like left-wing ideology, like
With the
which
exception of, what kind of exception of federal Peronism, but that's a separate debate.
well that's I would say that's an exception to the rule though. They're generally left-wing. Like because I think it's just like an offshoot of
Yeah,
like
and federal Peronism was started by Carlos Menem, who was president from 1989 to 1999, and was a huge fan and proponent of market liberalization. However, he still considered himself to be a Peronist. He's also Malay's favorite president other than himself.
yeah, like oh wait, we got some comments already.
All right. One comment from Nick says, hello. The other was, I wasn't expecting Malay to actually win. I'm not a classical liberal or an offshoot of it. But my answer to why Malay won is quite simple. People were sick and tired of Peronism, and moreover, Sergio Massa in particular was just a terrible candidate, so it was pretty easy for Malay to win. He won in the biggest landslide in Argentine history, with the exception of Prone himself. But then again, the election which Prone won, comparable margin to Malay, it's heavily debatable if whether or not that election was even fair enough to begin with.
Oh, yeah. True. Actually, when was that election?
That was, I believe, the 70s.
Wait, that was before the dictatorship, wasn't it?
It's complicated with because Prone was both president in the 50s and 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Argentina is a pretty weird country to say the least. Like Peronism wasn't just any like regular social democracy, um, ideology. It was kind of like a cult of personality too. Like, it'd basically be like if Trumpism was a lasting ideology on American right for decades, even after Donald Trump was long dead. Oh God, I don't
Yeah,
want to.
and also I found out the answer to the election. It was in September 1973, where Juan Perón won 61% of the vote. But this was the second election in, and it's pretty controversial to say the least. And as for my answer to this question, Nick, the I think Milei stays in power. No one's going to coup him, but he is going to have to moderate and work with many people who are in the center-right legislature, as La Libertad Avanza does not have a majority in Congress. So he's going to have to moderate and make compromises. Essentially, kind of like if Gary Johnson was our president, but there was still like a moderate Republican Congress that he had to work with. That's the best way I could describe it.
Hmm. Yeah, like also I think it is something to address. Basically, like a lot of the criticism Milei has been getting from libertarians themselves, especially in the U.S. Um, where like where everyone basically is doing this typical purity test on Milei, just like they do with any other libertarian. Like you're not a real libertarian or whatever.
Granted, are you really a libertarian if you've never been called not a real libertarian?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, this guy straight up dresses up as Captain ANCAP and says he wipes his ass with the state. Find any successful libertarian candidate who can say shit like this and get elected in a landslide.
Yeah, there's also like I've seen like criticism from some people basically saying that like, well, what that like they're like, oh, he's pro dollarization. I thought so he wants to basically make Argentina a slave of the American Federal Reserve. Aren't libertarians supposed to be against that? Like that's a common thing I hear
Well,
too.
my answer to that is quite simple. As someone who's not the biggest fan of the US Federal Reserve, the Argentine central bank is 100, if not 1,000 times worse in every regard. And replacing it with the US dollar is still a step in the right direction.
I completely agree. Um yeah, I completely agree. And in the fact basically that you have like a lot of people um who don't really who basically say like, well, he's not a real anarchist because he ran for office, or he's basically not a real ANCAP, or because of this and that, or the fact that he's working with so many people. I honestly basically say that like, I mean that's kind of how, I mean, you kind of have to basically be pragmatic sometimes, like, and yeah, exactly. The answer
Exactly.
is pragmatism.
Yep. Another thing is when people forget a lot about what kind of ANCAP Malay was. I mean, is because he isn't a hardcore Rothbardian. He is a short-term minarchist who's philosophically a Rothbardian. It's the kind of ANCAP I described myself as when I still considered myself an ANCAP. Now I revert back to minarchism, which I'm going to get some heat for considering the name of the podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of funny, basically, because like this whole thing was supposed to be like a huge bridge between ANCAPs and minarchists, but we ended up being both minarchists.
We still got plenty of ANCAP buddies we can invite on stream if we want.
Yeah, we're still open to basically to ANCAPs and all that, because that's kind of like the a big thing about our podcast.
Yeah, and like if you're an ANCAP who wants to join, feel free to. Well, also if we want to do an Austrian Chicago school debate, we'll also be open to that.
Yeah, but back to Malay, I guess. Hmm. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So another thing is there's another dumb thing was people say that Milei isn't an ANCAP, isn't a libertarian. He's an ANCAP. When I'm like,
Mm.
oh, so we got whether or not ANCOM to join. The answer is probably not in the near future. And it
Yeah.
we're not in the near future. We're gonna primarily talk with fellow right libertarians in Arians for now.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change in the future, but for now at least, it's gonna be primarily a discussion amongst people in the libertarian right wing sphere of things. We'll we can have stream parts more diverse, but we're generally going to make this reorient this podcast towards right libertarianism and discussions within it.
Yeah. Also, I would like to basically here's another issue that Milei seems to face um among other right libertarians is a fact that about him being so pro US in Israel and the UK when it comes to
And
foreign
Ukraine.
policy. Yeah, that too.
Well, the reason why he's reorienting himself to be pro-US is mainly so he can unshackle the Argentine economy away from China and towards the US, which I 100% support. He's canceled Argentina's entry into BRICS and is going to be joining, I think, a EU trade deal in the near future, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, basically, I'm not a fan of basically the US when it comes to foreign policy, to say the least. But at the same time, the US is most definitely the lesser evil compared to Russia and China by a long shot.
And as for why Milei is friendly with Zelensky, it's mostly once again to reorient Argentina towards the West and away from Chinese and Russian influence. Granted, it's good. It's probably extremely awkward that Orban and Zelensky are at the same inauguration. I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
That's got to be awkward.
we got this comment.
Yeah, that organization's fairly new, and it being abolished isn't actually gonna change much negatively
Actually,
because
I don't mean to interrupt, but actually I think we should probably show that clip on here where he's going
the
afuera.
Fuera clip.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. When you're ready to pull it up.
Oh, you want me to do
But
it? Okay.
all right, and but before that clip happens, Milei isn't a total abolitionist because he's going to cut the number of ministries from 20 to 9. He's not going to cut all of them at once, but he's cutting the government by more than half. By doing this.
Oh, that's not what I want to do. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me get this straight. Oh, not that one. Is it? Okay, it's that one.
Tenemos que entender es que el Estado no es la solución, el Estado es el problema. Ustedes, si se fijan acá, tienen la gran raviolada que es el Estado, el gran curro y la fuente de la decadencia argentina, que es el Estado. Esta es la foto del Estado que tenemos hoy. Si nos movemos hacia aquella pizarra, Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de
Afuera!
Fuera. Oh, by the way,
What?
my second language is not Spanish. I know this may sound weird as a Californian, but my second language is very rusty Japanese, which because I'm a weeb. But afuera.
Okay. Ministry of Culture, out.
Cultura, afuera.
Ministry of Environmental and Sustainable Development, out.
Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resista.
Although you resist. Okay, so the ones he said afuera to so far seem to be basically like these ministries basically, I believe, are I kind of see as like bloated agencies that are not really needed.
Bloated agencies that were created under one throne that ought to be cut.
Yeah, exactly. Let's I'm gonna finish this and we'll finish my point.
Vamos a seguir por acá. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación. Algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. ¡Afuera!
Nothing good came out of the public sector.
Okay, I was about to say, okay, I'm a bit concerned about that one, but then he basically made a good point there too.
Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Educación. Adoctrinamiento. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Transporte. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Salud. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Desarrollo Social. ¡Afuera! ¿Cómo queda?
What is your opinion on those last few, Victor?
There's stuff like security ministry and stuff, so out of pragmatism, he can't cut all of them. Another thing that's funny, he's not destroying the Ministry of Infrastructure, so he's not a real libertarian because he doesn't hate them whole-ass roads.
Eric July probably not gonna like that.
Yeah, fuck them whole-ass roads, man. Actually, I was watching Eric July's... Okay. His stream about Milei, and he was pretty happy about it, all things considered, but just probably don't tell him he's not going to take out the whole ass roads. As for his geopolitical views, we discussed this prior, but it's mainly so we can economically decouple away from China and Russia and towards freer countries like the US.
Yeah.
Which I understand. It's a pragmatically smart view.
El Estado, Ministerio de Capital Humano, Ministerio de Infraestructura, Ministerio de Economía, Ministerio de Justicia, Ministerio de Seguridad, Ministerio de Defensa, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores y Ministerio del Interior. Se acabó el curro.
So it seems like he wants to keep the ministries that he seems that are deemed essential for the state to function, I believe.
Yeah, like defense, courts, those are both consistent with minarchism. Transport, yeah, okay, that's a bit stretching it, but hey, I guess maybe he doesn't hate them whole ass roads.
Yeah.
Also, for the ministries he's he's probably going to cut a lot of pork in those ministries and like streamline them a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I know, by the way, it's on the topic of the Ministry of Security, the third place candidate, Patricia Ulrich got that position, which I assume was probably part of a deal they got. That way Bullrich would back Milei in the runoff, which really helped Milei out, to be honest. Same with his deals with Macri, even though he's pretty critical of both. No. considering the fact he's not abolishing the Ministry of Transport. I mean, not Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Infrastructure. That would fall under roads. I mean, roads would fall under that.
De la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
By the way, that's actually somewhat of a mistranslation. The actual line is "Long live the fucking freedom," not "Long live the freedom." Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard basically some Spanish speakers say it's not the word fucking.
Yeah, it's not a direct translation, and I've seen it being translated on both via Google Translate. So, but we gotta discuss something about Milei. His hair. We cannot ignore that elephant in the room.
Oh yeah, like this.
And another thing is, how do I say this? He kind of has a lion persona.
Oh God, is he? He's in that stuff.
Kind of, because he's like, there's like a picture, an AI-generated picture of a Argentine lion hugging a Argentine swan, I believe. The swan being the representing Bullrich's coalition, the lion representing Milei. Also, Milei's dog, Conan, he said that he met Conan in a past life when he was the lion and Conan was a gladiator and they refused to fight or something. Yeah.
You say fuck them whole ass roads because you want a further privatized society. I say it because I'm a car abolitionist. We are not the same.
Yeah, roads existed before cars, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, plus
Granted,
basically I think yeah, go ahead.
Granted, they served a different purpose back in the day, like for horses and stuff.
And also walking too. People forget about that as well.
Yeah.
People used to walk on the road before the cars.
I think Adam Ruins Everything covered that.
Oh yeah, like
Oh yeah, that's also where I learned that jaywalking was actually basically the equivalent of saying fuckhead walking for the time.
Yeah, it was also somewhat anti-Semitic as well, which yeah, and that became a legal term for some reason.
Yeah, it's the history of the term jaywalking is weird, but I don't know why some people are saying that Milei's comparable to Maloney because they get elected on one thing and then do another while in office. Because the thing is, Milei's already made a good on a lot of his promises on ministries. Meanwhile, Maloney was mostly elected on anti-immigration platform and then softened her tone on immigration. Milei's immigration policy, while somewhat on the conservative end of things, was by far not his focal point when running. It was primarily economic issues.
Oh yeah, there's also a weird development today too. That happened at the inauguration. There's an incident between Zelensky and Orban.
Kinda expected this, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, let's see. I've seen there's a video on this before. Oh wait, look at this.
I'll tell you one thing though. Mr. McAdams ain't gonna be happy about this.
Oh yeah, he's not.
But I mean, we've already had Twitter fights with Mr. McAdams on this.
Oh my God! Here's the video.
Oh, is that Orban and Zelensky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what the fuck? I never. If you told anyone this about this just 1 year ago, they would, or even 6 months ago, they would not believe you.
Yeah, like we got a Hungarian friend of ours who, yeah, I cannot wait to tell him this.
He probably already knows.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear his reaction. It's probably either a what the fuck reaction or just that kind of reaction.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Who would have thought Zelensky and Orban would get into an argument in the middle of
of a libertarian
inauguration?
inauguration. This would be like okay, imagine if Justin Amash got elected president and Thomas Massey gets into an argument with mainly like Jared Paulus. Actually, not really. I'm not quite sure what the American equivalent would be.
Oh yeah, we already covered this. Um,
But I am going to cover one thing that's somewhat related.
yeah,
That being that some people think Milei somehow anti-LGBT, but that's simply false. He is a proponent of free love, and his position on same-sex marriage is, I don't care if you marry someone of the same sex, but he also doesn't believe marriage should even be an institution that's one that's governmentally based, which is a pretty common sentiment among libertarians.
yeah. It's not really an LGBT issue um because like they don't want any marriages to have any involvement with the state.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me personally, I think it should just be essentially the government should, as Americans, I think the government should enforce contracts and they should treat marriage as a contract with all the stipulations of said contract. Usually, for contracts to be valid, it has both parties have to be over 18 and stuff. So simple
yeah.
stuff like that, I'd be fine with. But
Not marriage
the
licenses.
yeah,
Yeah, the fact that you need a license to have to get a marriage is
yeah,
really pathetic. Honestly, like you shouldn't get a license basically just to show your long-term commitment with someone. Like,
as for
um,
Malay on trans stuff, he isn't because some people think him opposing the mystery of gender things proof he's anti-trans. In reality, his position on trans healthcare is pretty simple. Well, do whatever you want with your own body, just don't make me foot the bill.
yeah, and plus basically like, and just because you're for like abolishment, like saying that like he's anti-LGBT because he wants to abolish the Ministry of Gender or whatever is kind of like basically saying that like someone who wants to abolish the Department of Commerce is like anti-commerce, or someone
Yeah,
is against who wants to abolish Homeland Security is against, well, security on the homeland.
or if
Like it's
someone's for abolishing the Department of Education, they're against education as a concept. There's an
that's a
excellent Bastiat quote on this. If and I'm gonna look it up. If I can find it, oh, okay, we'll get back to that. If I can find it, I'll find it.
okay.
But okay, I learned about Friedrich Bastiat because of Justin Amash, who described Bastiat as one of his great heroes. I would agree with that. I consider Bastiat to be the main influence on my views of how the state should function. Oh. Okay, here's a quote. Socialism, like the ancient ideas from which it springs, confuses the distinction between government and society. As a result of this, every time we object to a thing being done by government, the socialists conclude we object to it being done at all. We disapprove of state education, then the socialists say that we are opposed to any education. We object to a state religion, then the socialists say we want no religion at all. We object to a state enforced equality, and then they say we're against equality, and so on. It is as if the socialists were to accuse us of not wanting persons to eat because we do not want the state to raise grain. Okay, and important distinction on this. This was back in the time, I'd say a bit before Marx. So the primary form of socialism was Christian socialism. So that's why state religion was closely related to socialism, if you didn't know.
Hmm.
It was mostly to undo the government enforced discrimination. There's a separate argument you can make over is it considered Article or Section 2 of it?
It's called Title II.
Title 2 of the Civil Rights Act. That's the only one that's actually debatable and whether or not. But the rest of the Civil Rights Act is completely fine in my book. The
Yeah.
other part is more debatable.
Hell, basically, like, all the issues that even the libertarians who say that, like, they want to abolish the Civil Rights Act, they really only, either ignorantly or otherwise, only have issue with Title II. Basically,
Yeah.
which gets in the, which basically is like a business issue, while like, like all the other provisions are like are
To
like
restrain the state.
yeah, pretty much assuring equality before the law, making and basically pretty much keeping the government either from segregating itself or forcing segregation onto everyone else. Pretty much.
Yeah. Either way, this isn't really a debate over the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, this is kind
But
of
let's just say neither of us are just going to be loudly yelling up the top of our lungs to repeal the Civil Rights Act in its entirety.
Yeah, anyone who says that, any libertarian who says they want to completely abolish the act is either basically superly ignorant and stupid, or they're legitimately racist. Like,
Or just an edgelord.
yeah, that too.
Like Barry Gold. Another thing is a common misconception is that Barry Goldwater opposed the Civil Rights Act when in reality he only opposed Title II.
Yeah, exactly.
Still lost in a pretty bad landslide to LBJ though.
Yeah, there is an argument basically on like basically maybe like the government it might be justified for the government to basically like to like basically like to basically like push for civil rights protections in companies that receive like corporate
Government
welfare,
subsidies.
corporate or any form of corporate welfare or anything like that from the state, which makes sense, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. What's up? Okay. Yeah, that's what we were referring to when we're talking about the Civil Rights Act. Also, as I mentioned previously, they'll be pissed off by the Zelensky thing.
Yeah, LPNH basically, we're not gonna lie, it's pretty dog shit.
Yep. And if you ever ask me on what I do in regards to messaging, I just tweet. I'm just the main person, not the only person who tweets out from LP of Cal.
Yeah.
Yes, I 100% agree with you, Nick.
Yeah, and while this is a Milei stream, like it is a good point to bring up LPNH because LPNH is exactly what it's basically exactly what you if libertarians do not want a Milei style victory, they should keep doing what LPNH is doing.
You know, the
Like,
funny thing is about Milei, he's arguably in some ways more vulgar than LPNH is.
yeah, but
But he
he
still understands how to build coalitions and not burn bridges.
like I think the issue is basically like LPNH basically says stuff that basically for most people, for like almost everyone, basically would find like abhorrent. Like they just frame things the worst way possible just to get a reaction out of people. Like and that turns people away. Like,
Yeah, but as for why I said Milei can be more vulgar than LPNH, I mean, he literally said, "Shove the state up your fucking asshole." I wipe my ass with the state, and that's the shortened version of it.
yeah. Let's see. I wonder what else we can share. Let's see.
You know this one account called Milei Explains on Twitter?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good at basic because it shows Milei explaining basic economics in a pretty down to earth and explain an understandable way, which I really appreciate because there's a lot of libertarians who feel they're so elite and better than others because they know and understand human action front to back. And I'm not dissing Ludwig von Mises or human action when I say this. It's just that for a lot of normies, it's hard to get them into liberty by telling them to jump headfirst into human action. The way Milei explains economics in a simple to understand form while still being well versed in Mises, Hayek, Rothbard, Friedman, etc., is the way you explain Austrian economics. Also, yes, I know Friedman Chicago School, but he still talks about Friedman, so I'd like to mention him.
Oh yeah, like, and here's the thing is that people keep I guess even us we keep kind of forgetting is that Milei only 2 years ago was just an economist. Like,
His
that's
bio
all he
to
was.
this day, his
He's
you know
just
what Milei's bio
he's just a white collar economist, but somehow he has like such a fiery personality like you don't expect economists to have.
You know what Milei's bio is to this day?
What?
It's literally just economista. He's literally the president, and his bio is just economista, which means economist in English.
Yeah.
But I also like to say that another thing I respect about Milei is he's very humble about. Like, you'd think with such a fiery personality, he'd have like a huge ego, but in reality, he made an outward effort to say, "No, the presidency is a job. I am still not above the Argentinian people. I will serve them, but I am not above them. I am not better than them."
Yeah,
And the thing is, there's a lot of stereotypes about libertarians being uptight elitists that don't care what, and that's why a more populist style mentality is better. Granted, populism as a term is kind of hard to explain because I mean, you hear everyone from Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders to Maxime Bernier to Javier Milei described as populist when some like Bernie, yeah, like Bernie and Trump are pretty different. I can't believe I almost said Bernier. Bernier is like a weird intersection between Trump and Ron Paul.
yeah.
Granted, he's probably not going to be anywhere near as successful as Milei. Sorry, PPC bros.
Bernier has a huge disadvantage because he's a French Quebecer, which is not very well liked in English Canada, like with his thick accent. Even if they like his politics.
Yeah, like he's literally called the Albertan in Quebec, though, but that still doesn't change the fact he's still a Quebecer.
Yeah, and inside Quebec, Quebec doesn't really like libertarianism, so like he's kind of
Yeah, I mean, they
disadvantaged both
literally
ways.
have laws, speech codes to preserve Canadian French.
Pretty
Outside
much.
of Montreal, it's not at all liberty friendly in the slightest. Actually, Montreal is still not the best in terms of liberty, but it's like the one safe haven where you can speak English in Quebec.
Anyway, let's stay a little bit on topic, Victor.
Yeah. I was mainly talking about how libertarian populism isn't contradictory at all.
Okay, let's check our comments.
That was all, we already shared that one.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, speaking of okay. Speaking of Friedman, okay. Actually, that's a good segue. Do you know how much it's the Libertarian Party of Argentina got for the presidential election in 2019?
1%.
1.47%. So, not even Jorgensen percentage. Meanwhile,
I mean,
and the guy who
actually,
got that was
it's around the same percentage. Actually, like Jorgensen was 1.2. But
oh,
yeah. So imagine like it's so monumental of a difference. Like it's basically like if like the LP after getting Jorgensen in 2020 ends up winning the presidential election in 2024.
so we can dream. We can dream. We can dream.
Like that's how crazy this shit is that happened in Argentina.
Like Esper ran under Avanza Libertad, which was then got that was dissolved, and either they went to La Libertad Avanza, which is Milei's party, I mean coalition, or they joined
Avant
JXC.
no, Avanza Libertad basically I believe they went to I believe Avanza Libertad went to La Libertad Avanza, which yeah, I know that's kind of weird.
Yeah, they did, but JXC, but Esper went to JXC.
Oh, I see.
Speaking of
Okay.
speaking of Esper, he's basically he's the Friedmanite to Milei's Rothbardian. Granted, Milei's probably closer to a Nozikian minarchist in practice.
Yeah. Um Actually, wow, I didn't even know about this until now. Um did you know that basically that like the Libertarian Party in Argentina is actually has slightly more seats than JXC?
That's cool. But
Yeah, like
granted, they
JXC is
don't.
31 and LL and La Libertad Avanza is at 35.
Granted, they're going to have to work together in order to undo pronism, regardless.
I know, but like I remember when the polls were saying that that like the LP all in Argentina was gonna definitely get seats, but in a distant third place. But they're in a second place, which is wow.
Also, another thing about the Libertarian Party of Argentina, it was only founded in 2018 and only became a national party in October of 2023. It's a pretty young party, all things considered.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and in the Senate, Milei has 7 seats and JXE only has 2.
Yeah, the Senate's probably going to be a big roadblock, but all things considered, I'd say we both are pretty cautiously optimistic for Malay. Some people are just way too black pilled to the point where they see any remotely positive thing happening for their movement. They're like, no, he's not going to be truly one of us. He's not our guy.
Yeah,
And I mean,
and I hate that because basically when you're the thing is that like I understand like and when you're in politics basically and if you want to change stuff, even basically say like you want to abolish the government, you should basically want to basically like you should still want your side to win and want to govern basically toward basically what you want, like because like and I think basically like a populist mentality can be pretty bad when in a way where basically like as soon as they get their guy elected, they then basically then they hate them because now they're in power.
speaking of which, I don't really consider Trumpism to be populist anymore since it's now essentially the Republican establishment. You can't be anti-establishment when you are the establishment.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically that is true. At the same time, though, basically national populism is like populism's also like a campaign strategy too.
Yeah, I personally think populism is a rhetorical strategy first, ideology second.
Yeah.
Like, and just to dispel this rumor, since it's not Leninist to want to roll back the state. Lenin never was able to roll back the state. Well, I guess until the 90s.
I mean, on paper, Leninists kind of, I guess, do, um, but not in actual reality.
Yeah, so it's fundamentally different. I mean, I take like a lot of and took a lot of inspiration when I started this podcast from Dave Smith, and I'm going to repeat this line: "We need to roll back the state." And here's the thing: Dave Smith's an ANCAP, but why he said that we need to roll back the state, and he said all these problems are the result of government being way too big. He wants to roll back the state right now. Granted, I know he's for full-on abolition, but realistically, roll back the state right now.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, never mind. So yeah, like people are like a lot of ANCAPs for some reason basically are they like basically like you said, a lot of people are just way too black pilled. Like
But I mean, Phoenix, can you pull up that Captain ANCAP picture?
oh, okay, I'll do that real quick.
Because I mean, this guy literally is the president of one of the biggest countries in South America now, and he dresses up as a libertarian ANCAP superhero.
Yeah, like look at this.
Okay, meanwhile, the closest thing we have to
someone made a Minecraft skin of Milei.
Phoenix, if we ever do bring back the Minecraft stuff, yeah, we're totally using those skits.
There's even a cartoon. Yeah.
But But I mean, how? Okay, this is the only guy who can dress up like this and still become president of one of the biggest countries in South America.
Yeah.
I admit it is kind of. I will admit there's stuff about Milei that I find weird, like the story about his dogs. I believe one of them saying Conan the Barbarian after the movie. If you have or haven't seen it, featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger and all.
Oh god, what if someone actually makes this a movie?
Conan the Barbarian is an '80s movie, you know.
No, I'm talking about Malay.
Captain and Cat movie. That would be funny. But do you know what's the? I love Milei, obviously. Okay, I kind of see the resemblance. But Shido was mainly supposed to be a parody of Japanese politics, which are quite different. Oh, and I'd like to point out that young people in Argentina were overwhelmingly for the anti-establishment Milei. Meanwhile, in Japan, younger people actually vote for the LDP more than older people do. The LDP being the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan, which has held control of Japanese politics for pretty much forever, if you didn't know.
Wait, young people vote for the LDP more?
Yes. It's the only country where younger people support the establishment more than the older people.
That is so fucking weird.
Yeah. It, because but young people really were the center focus of Malay's campaign. And it was a leftist push to lower the voting age to 16. And do you know what happened as a result?
What?
They all backed Malay. Well, not all, but a lot. A lot of them enthusiastically backed Malay. Okay, it's fine when you go Conan the Barbarian. Aryan Malay's dog will show. Oh yeah. By the way, Malay named all of his dogs after libertarian economists. He named them after Milton Friedman, Murray Rothbard, and Robert Lucas, who he named two dogs. One named Robert, one named Lucas.
Hmm.
He paid $50,000 to clone his dog. But I know some people won't be a fan of like the way Malay treats his dog like his sons, but I find it endearing.
Yeah, and yeah, so basically, I guess let's do a little recap here on what we discussed on the stream. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh yeah, and in other news, Sheila Jackson Lee lost.
Oh, let's not talk about this in the stream. Let's kind of wrap it up because it's only been an
Yeah,
hour.
you're
Yeah,
right.
so the sum things up basically. To sum things up, pretty much. Um, we think Milei will probably be a decent president in Argentina. Like even if even if he only does half or a third of the stuff he said he was gonna do, he'd be one of the best world leaders in a while, to say the least. And I really implore, like, even like the purists who basically say that, like, who basically who say that, like, Milei basically, who say that Milei
isn't a real libertarian or is a Western puppet
yeah,
or whatnot, to just
yeah, I mean, like,
shut up and take the W.
yeah, like, and I mean, not just that, but like, even if basically, like, he turns out to that basically that even if he is, like, what matters is that the messaging of, like, a Rothbardian anarcho-capitalism slash right libertarianism, that message won over a third of Argentinians, and they won the majority in the second round of the country, and that should
Like,
be big.
he literally campaigned saying, "I wipe my ass with the state," and he won.
Yeah,
Name
like,
I'm another candidate who's as unapologetic. You know, a lot of people are comparing him to Trump, and that's just flat out wrong. He's very pro free trade. He's he's actually fairly socially liberal on all issues other than abortion and euthanasia.
yeah, and like the thing is that, like, he's actually gotten, like, a whole lot of especially young people in Argentina interested in Hayek and and um and Friedman
Rothbard.
and Rothbard and Mises, like, all these people, like, and a lot of these young people were former socialists who basically, like, they weren't, all these people were not just conservatives who decided to go libertarian. A lot of these people were leftists who voted Milei into this Rothbardian anarcho-capitalism and fell in love with, like, people like Friedman and Hayek and stuff like that. And that's pretty big.
Yeah, and also his messages are spreading like wildfire across the world. It's become the point where even like normie Republicans have to pander to Malay to at least one extent or another. That's something I never expected to see.
Yeah, like, for fuck's sake, right wingers and conservatives literally basically, like, taking credit for a libertarian victory. That's unheard of.
Yeah. Like, meanwhile, the most we'd do would be like claiming Coolidge, who is debatable.
Yeah, exactly. But
And
anyway, basically, like, we hope basically, like, things change for the a lot better for Argentina. Milei basically has a pretty much inherited a country that was in a pretty bad shape, like, much worse than the U.S. And let's let's just hope Argentina goes up from here. Like, the last thing we want is the opposite to happen.
probably get better.
And let's hope he basically goes through at least some of his promises.
Sorry, followed through with a good amount of them, like the bricks one. Done.
And I don't know about Victor, but me personally, I would probably be, like, one of the first people to basically criticize Milei if he goes against his promises and does something I don't like. Trust me. But I'm
Yeah,
here
I
basically
mean,
saying, like, I hope he does.
I agree with you on that. The thing is, I'm a fan of someone like Justin Amash. That doesn't mean that I wasn't critical of some of the things he would do in Congress. He's not infallible.
Exactly.
And I'm also a big fan of Thomas Massey, but there's a few decent times where I would disagree with Massey on. He isn't perfect either.
Oh yeah, like, in fact, basically, like, um yeah, there are a couple issues I do have with Massey, but so far, basically, he is the more principled member of Congress, to say the least.
He's yep.
Anyway, basically, we have to end this stream now, like, because we don't want
Yeah.
to keep going on forever. But we'll probably create a sequel to this much later on. To see, like, maybe
Like
6 months in, or like a year
yeah.
in. We'll do or something like that.
Viva la libertad grajo.
Goodbye, everyone. Oh, yeah, make sure to subscribe to our channel.